Sorry, just making sure what my confines are. I'm an artist, so I don't do well with conventional spaces. Good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to be here. And I'm glad Akshit has already made that point about receding hairlines and age. So I'm nearly 33 and unmarried. I'm here to talk about something which is very close to my heart. And it's basically a call. It's called MayDay. Now, how many here in the audience, just a show of hands, know what MayDay means? Just a show of hands. MayDay? No air crash investigation fans here? I'm just a couple of people. Okay, so I'll spell it out then. MayDay is a cry for distress, usually given out by ships and planes when they are in big trouble. Engine failure, the pilot is incapacitated, an intruder in the cockpit. Difficult times, right? Well, MayDay is a cry for help. And I think that is something a lot of us miss out in our lives. The need to ask for help. It's great to share this stage today with these 3 bold red letters, TED. But bold red should also be the idea of asking for help. The speaker before me spoke about drugs, drug addiction. And he also stressed upon the point that we do not even begin to address the problem. As addicts, as members of society, we refuse to ask for help. I was the same way. In fact, let me take you back to the mid-90s. I've already told you I'm 33, so I can easily say I was 5 years old back then. And India was going through a middle-age crisis, 50 years into independence. Like an aging movie star, wrinkles showing up in the form of socio-political tumult, on the one hand, and on the other, there was the aspirational Indian looking forward to a brighter future after the liberalization of the economy. And here I was, a 5-year-old in a premier school of Lucknow, sure that my problems were much, much bigger than those of India or the world. My problems were, so let's call this problem A and this problem R, about this height, yes. So both kids, problem A and problem R, were bullying me at school. I'm glad this topic has also been addressed by one of the speakers before me. I can assure you I had no connections with them earlier. They've just built this speech up for me. So gratitude there. But problem A and problem R were throwing slush at me in the interval. They were throwing me down slides. I used to return home bruised, battered, with stains on my shirt. And all I told my parents was that this is happening because I'm being naughty. Being naughty invites the idea of being disciplined. And disciplining in Indian homes works a little differently from some other places. So after the bullying at school, there was another session of a very different kind of bullying which went on at home. And I was told that, get your act together. You're after all the son of this person in uniform. So he has discipline, he understands the world well, and you should learn from him. I used to put up this brave face, go back to school every day, and say that I'll face up to these bullies. But this got to a point where I became violent. And anybody who knows me well would also tell you that I find it hard to swat a fly. But those were days when I used to go back home and throw punches at my parents, at my grandmother, at the domestic help. And it reached a point where I used to even hit guests who came home. So my grandmother identified there is something wrong and went and told the teacher. The teacher at the school, a premier school, tried her best to figure out what's happening, but her attempts were unsuccessful. But the good thing about grandmothers is that they are not known to give up. So much like the RAW or the CBI or the CIA, if you like, she did a covert operation of her own. She hid behind these trees in the interval and saw me being bullied. So she went and told the teacher that this is what is happening with my ward, with my grandson. Please help. Once again, there was no real help forthcoming, and I was eventually, with my unhealed trauma, taken out of that school. But my grandmother extracted a promise out of me. And that promise was to ask for help the next time I am in need. Did I learn? Absolutely not. Who learns in one go? I heard what she said, and unfortunately we lost her a couple of years later. So I felt like my source of help, the person I love the most, is no longer around, and I can go to nobody else. Then it came to big decisions, like for instance the ones you take after board exams. In class 10, I got a decent percentage, and I was told there are two heavens you can go to. One heaven is called science, and the other heaven is called commerce. Heaven number 1, heaven number 2. And so problem A and problem R now became science and commerce. I'll explain why commerce is shorter. It has to do with percentage. But later in life, you often realize it's commerce and science. But what happened with me was that I was just given these two options. I had no idea that the arts even exist. And so, within science, some teachers told me, you're a good student, Maanas. I think you can manage PCMB, physics, chemistry, maths, and bio. And that burden of syllabus on my shoulders, I said, yes, I'll do this. It's my job. I'm a brave, brave boy. Well, gratitude to the unhealed trauma, my grandmother had at least helped my flight take off in the initial years. But now, I was in a plane, flying blind. Everybody in my family was thrilled that this guy is going for science. And obviously, engineering naturally follows. Because after I did my engineering, that was when I was first told that, okay, you also have to do something with your life. So I was like, okay, now I'm at this stage here. And what do? I land up in a very coveted job, a huge IT conglomerate. Everybody knows about it, so no names. And I land some great clients. I get the highest pay grade. And I am, from all practical measures, doing very well in that job. But the turbulence is within. Not at cruising altitude in that flight, the turbulence is within. So I go back to the cabin and look at all my friends and family sitting there very happy that bachcha to secure job mein lag gaya. Maza aa gaya. We have done our duty. And I say that I'm unhappy. I can't do this anymore. And there's protest. It's almost like I'm going to bring a country down. And they're like, no, this can't happen. You have to continue with the job you have landed. I say this is not possible. There are a few cries I, make for help. And then I see my parents sitting there in the front row. And I say, please, I need grandmom just now. Can somebody be grandmom for me? So my father steps up and says, yes, I'll help. What do you want? I said, Dad, I have to quit this job. I just can't work in the confines of this job. And the only question he asked me was, how long is the notice period? Now, I was surprised because I was expecting a very different reaction from him, particularly because he had done 37 years in a conventional government service. But I had reached out for help to my immediate family, and they did help me. And now I was at least able to wriggle out of that situation. But then I said, Dad, we are in a flight. The entire family is in the cabin. What do we do now? Where is the destination? Where do we go? And he says, let's do one thing. Let's stop over. I like this idea of stopovers. I often use them on foreign trips to see a place of my choosing. And here I decided to stop over in Dehradun. And I went back to the cabin and announced, all those people with the check-in baggage of preconceived notions and those who have more attachment with those notions than with the pilot of the flight may please leave. I was amazed. There were just 5 or 6 people left. The entire aircraft was empty, 2 being my parents and 2 strangers. And almost everybody else I counted on, extended family, friends, had deserted me. They said, "You're going to take us to doom." And I said, "Okay, now this is what I have. The flight feels much easier to manage. This burden is off my shoulders, and I must take off again." But take off where? I went back to those years of the bullying, the unhealed trauma, and thought of those islands of solace which I had at the time. They came in the form of plasticine clay pieces. Does anybody know what plasticine was? Plasticine were moldable pieces of clay with which you could make shapes, elephants, giraffes, whatever you wanted. And I was particularly well known for making elephants. In fact, some of my classmates used to use my elephant and present it as their own. And then I was reasonably competent at sketching Donald Ducks and Mickey Mouses, and that is all pretty much that I was known for, apart from the stuff which I never wanted to do. So I decided to go down this path. I thought, let me try and become an artist. I did not want to completely let go of what I had learned in terms of technology as an engineer. So I created this style of digital painting, which went on to become very widely collected. So digital painting, photography, and traditional painting. I held an exhibition here in this city of these 3 together. My mother was petrified. She said, "How can you put these 3 styles of art in one exhibition? It is never going to work." Luckily, that exhibition pretty much sold out on the first day. And that is where a new journey began, all because I chose to ask for help in the first place. But I still knew something very important, that financial stability was missing from this idea I had created. And a lot of people still ask me that question, that you are, oh, there's no slide up there. So you are an author, painter, photographer, but where does the moolah come from? So my answer is, it comes from me being an author. And how that changed my life is that this premier literary agency of India, they noticed some of my writings on social media, got in touch, and said, let's do a book with this big publisher. But he also said that you need to find me a story. They have faith in your writing. Now, I did not have a story to tell. I honestly did not find mine important enough. And they wanted exclusively non-fiction. So I went back to that cabin and said, "MayDay, MayDay, MayDay, do we have a story?" Everybody's hands went up. Yes, we have a story. Yes, we have a story. So I figured out a few stories and then got to a point where once again I sat next to my father, who was talking about true crime, which had been so far away from my life so far. But he said, let's write a book about drugs. And then came the next topic, about socio-political tumult in the mid-90s, the same time when I was being bullied. And these books were sanctioned by the likes of Hachette and Bloomsbury. And then they are now being visually adapted to screen. So that journey pretty much brought in the financial stability. It's surprising how things start to work out when you reach out for help. So the next time you feel that you are in a corner, remember to ask for help. And help comes with some interesting extras. I was walking out of a cinema hall in Mysore after watching the Sridevi starrer English Winglish. Fine film. I was in a good mood, but it was late at night. And autos are sometimes hard to come by that late. Mysore is a sleepy town as compared to Bangalore, as some of you would know. And the auto wala said, the only way I'm going to drop you back is if you listen to me sing. I said, okay, I'm willing to tolerate that. At least that's what I thought at that time. But then he started singing. So it went something like, ooh, and then came variations. Ooh, and then there was, ooh. And it just blew my mind. Yodeling is such a difficult skill. And this man driving the auto was doing it so effortlessly. Somebody whose talent had not yet been recognized, even acknowledged. I felt so lucky. And I knew that I can sing a bit. And soon enough, I had offers coming my way. I don't know how these things add up. But that extra bit of help drove me to take those offers. And now you can perhaps YouTube my name and find a few songs there, which I have sung. So there are these elements to my journey, and everything started with help of one or the other kind. So the next time your flight is in peril, just say Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Help. Ah! Say anything you want to say, but please reach out. Asking for help is the only way to get there. So repeat after me, students in particular. Mayday, Mayday, Mayday. Right, so the next time we are in peril and we needn't be on a flight, all we need to do is ask for help. And as I think of singing, I also think of a line which Kishore Kumar sang. And that's where I would like to end this. रुक जाना नहीं तू कहीं हार के, कांटों पे चल के मिलेंगे साए बहार के. ओ राही 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 ओ राही. Thank you very much. Thank you.